Welcome to this lunch with event that we've done one previously, and we're gonna start doing this more regularly, where we invite a VC investor or someone else we want to have a chat with, and that can share like relevant knowledge and experiences to the founders and others in our community. So I'm also here with Nino. Hello, Nino.
Hello, welcome everybody.
So it's my colleague who is also co-lead together with me, and he will take care of the chat. So please feel free to write comments or questions in the chat, and Nino will make sure that we get back to you on that. Great, and then Heidi will present herself in a little while. Very quick some schedule for today. So first we're gonna show you just the house rules. So this is this is gonna be a smooth little event. Then we have a little quick presentation of Fast Track Malmö and about Pale Blue Dot, and then let's talk about trends for impact investments. And also some Q&A. So we've received all your questions that you've sent, and I'll make sure as many as possible get answered from Heidi. Excellent. So let's move on. So please keep your mic on mute. So that because we're recording this, so it's just much better for the video if everyone are on mute. But then, and you're welcome to come and go as you want. If you can't stay the entire time, that's fine. We still want to make it interactive, so please write in the chat, and then Nino will see what you write, and so we can share that with everyone. And yes, and the event is recorded so that you know, and you will have access to the replay, which we put on YouTube. Right, Nino, and Anya is the one responsible for that.
Yes, so what we're going to do, we're recording this, and we're going to take your amazing questions and Heidi's amazing answers, and try to give them give more people this great knowledge and insights, and spread it on LinkedIn
and YouTube.
And YouTube. That is the plan.
Yes. Cool. And let's move on. I think there's someone who is not on mute right now, but Nino can take care of that. All right. Very quickly about Fast Track Malmö. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but so we are an accelerator in Malmö in Sweden. We have one program per year that goes on from March to May. So we're about to get started in 1.5 weeks. So our application is closed for this year. We focus a lot on quality over quantity. So we only have between 7 to 10 teams who join every year. And founders join us to get great advice. We have our European community of VCs, founders, and experts that we share during the program, but also after the program. And we focus on startups who want to raise a seed investment. So please go ahead and follow us, and we're trying to share as many valuable content to founders as possible to help startups in our program, but also outside of our program. So just follow us on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and then you can get access to that. Yeah, so that was it from Fast Track Malmö, and I'll hand over to Heidi to explain her background and what you are doing at Pale Blue Dot.
Sure, thank you, Melinda. So yeah, happy to give you a quick background on myself and on Pale Blue Dot. So I'm Heidi. I'm originally from Finland, but I've lived abroad for the past 15 years. So most of my career has been in London. I've been here in Sweden for the past 3 years, but spent some time in Silicon Valley and Berlin as well. And I actually kind of started my career in documentary filmmaking. So I used to travel around the world making films on social and global issues. and was trying to bring awareness to a lot of the kind of issues that were happening in the world. But these were things like, formerly abducted child soldiers, or the war in Sri Lanka, and or press freedom, etc. So that was kind of my life. But then I felt really frustrated with how little I could actually do, and I wanted to be part of finding the solutions instead of just kind of reporting and bringing awareness. And I actually went into tech, which sounds like a very strange jump, but I kind of realized that possibility of using technology as a tool to solve a lot of the problems that I was seeing, and just felt like it was such a powerful tool that we could do so much with. But at the same time, I felt that at the time, this is like 10 plus years ago, it wasn't really being used to its full potential, and not everyone had access to be building companies. It was certain type of companies by certain type of people that kind of came out of Silicon Valley, and I felt like there's so much more potential here. So I started a few different companies kind of over the years, raised money, did the kind of full journey in, like I said, mainly London and Silicon Valley. And I think one important kind of tipping point in my career was also when I spent some time in Silicon Valley, and I realized that the help I had gotten in London or in Berlin or in Europe in general was not of the same kind of quality than what they knew about company building in Silicon Valley. And I thought that, we have so many amazing people and so many great ideas in Europe, but we were not as good as building companies. We didn't have the same ambition level. We didn't have the same knowledge and the same way of kind of sharing knowledge that they had in Silicon Valley. So I really wanted to bring some of that back to Europe. So I first was part of starting an accelerator in London. So this is after kind of shutting down my second company. I was part of setting up one accelerator in London, and then later came here to Sweden to help or to join Fast Track Malmö. So I was doing that for the past kind of 3 years, and really try to build like high quality accelerator, and really try to figure out what we can take from Silicon Valley, what we can take from other accelerators, what we can take from what's already been done, and really try to help founders in the best way. And part of that was part of raising a microfund with Fast Track. And then we decided to just do our own fund. So myself and Joel, who I was working at Fast Track Malmö, as well as a third partner, Hampus, we decided to set up Pale Blue Dot and really focus on climate. And this was, we started planning this about 2 years ago. And then we finally last summer, last June, we started Pale Blue Dot. So I'm not going to go into that unless people have specific questions on it, but just in short, what we are a 53 million euro climate tech fund. So we are doing a second close right now. So we are hopefully going to be an 80 million or around that fund very soon. And we invest in pre-seed and seed stage companies all around Europe and US. So our kind of ticket sizes are normally around 200,000 euros to 2 million euros. Our sweet spot is very much seed stage companies of like 1 million. And we invest in across all sectors as long as a company has a positive climate impact. And I think an important thing to know is that it's not, we call it climate tech. We don't think it's not really the same as clean tech or green tech. Those were much more often a lot more hardware heavy, capex heavy, kind of investing in renewable energies. And of course, there's some overlap. There was some software in that as well, but we're very much preferring software and kind of easily scalable companies. So we're almost more like a generalist VC, but that invest in more climate positive companies than a kind of clean tech fund that invest in more kind of capex, high capex heavy and high asset heavy companies. So that's just a bit of a distinction, but yeah, I'll stop talking. So maybe you can come in with some questions.
Yeah, no, but that's super clear. Great. Thank you for that. So happy to hear that you're doing a second closing. I had no idea about that. So that's
it's very exciting.
News.
We'll find out where we land very soon.
Yeah, so more capital for more startups. That's really great. So we had a question from Ewert from Provision who asked, wanted to know more about the Pale Blue Dot framework or scope. So I guess you answered that. I don't know if it's something you want to complement on the framework.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that, I think the important thing to note is that climate tech isn't a sector in itself, that it is, something that we see across sectors. So I mean, at the moment, I've been looking a lot of fintech and a lot of food. There's a lot of agriculture and mobility, and of course, there's energy consumption and sustainable cities and other things. But it's so much wider than that. And our focus is on tech, and we do some deep tech as well. But saying that, we have been known to also look at other things that aren't completely tech driven as well. So I think an important thing maybe I didn't mention is all three of us founders are entrepreneurs, and we all have kind of similar backgrounds and have built companies, and we run a VC fund in a bit of an entrepreneurial way, in the sense that we're always growing and changing and trying to adapt and trying to figure out how to do this in a better way. We're not kind of a old school fund who kind of really kind of set everything in stone and this is how we do and this is who we must and this is how it goes. So we're always trying to improve what we do. And I could just kind of tell you where we've come to with what we do right now.
Cool. So we have some more questions here from Jack Peters at Accelerate, so across the bridge. He wonders, what is your approach to deal flow for Pale Blue Dot? Like, are you actively scouting, or what does that process look like?
We could definitely be doing a lot more than what we are doing. We have relied a lot now to start with on the kind of interest existing in climate tech, on our network, on being the kind of European climate tech focused company, and we will be kind of building our brand on top of that, but we haven't really started. Like I said, we're kind of doing our final close, so we're in such early stages that we haven't had the kind of time and the resources to really do enough there. But we get most of our deal flow comes from, we get quite a lot of cold emails, quite a lot of just cold leads. We get a lot of deal flow from accelerators, of course, and then mostly almost from our networks, kind of from other VCs, from friends, from other founders, etc. And then of course a lot from events as well. So this is the nice thing being a climate VC, when you don't have to fly around the world and you can just sit here and do events and kind of get deal flow through that as well. So that has worked really well for us.
Awesome. And then he also wonders if you could expand on how you assess the impact of the various startups that you analyze.
Sure. It is a very complex thing. We have really struggled with figuring out how to do it the best way. I don't think there is a best way, but there is, everyone does it in different ways. And we tried first to find an existing framework and try to see what we could use. And we didn't actually find anything that was big enough or good enough. So what we do right now is we have a kind of ESG scorecard, both a kind of self-assessment side and a scorecard that we use ourselves, the GPs internally. And we asked the startups to assess themselves on their climate impact, on their environmental impact, the social impact, on diversity within team, and also themselves say which SDG are you following, et cetera, et cetera. So we have loads of questions for them. And then we ourselves fill that in as well based on what we think at the time when we invest. So that's one part of it. We also, so we use that, of course, to make the assessment of what they're focusing on. And then of course we have like a climate pledge where they also kind of have to define their KPIs themselves, but we don't have like a specific framework where we say what's good enough. We ask them to define it, and then we look at project drawdown and we read a lot about the solutions and we think, is this big enough for us to focus on? So there's a lot of different parts to it. There isn't like a one way that we assess the impact. Some of it we kind of listen to them and see what they say, and some of it is our own research, and some of it is just by looking at other kind of talking to other advisors and trying to look at what knowledge is out there. But yes, that's kind of an answer.
yeah, excellent. And we have some questions from Jennifer from Loopit as well. I think you've answered some of them: ticket size and where you are, which like investment year you're in. But something that would be great if you could answer is if you take an active or passive role as an investor.
We are definitely very active investors, and it means different things. I mean, the main thing we do with everyone is we have a meeting with all of our companies every other week where we try to figure out what they need help with. And then we really engage ourselves based on their needs at the time. So we can help with everything from, recruitment, fundraising strategies, marketing, sales, just reaching out to our network, just brainstorming. Sometimes it's just about talking to the founders and having someone to just kind of lean on. And then when we do seed stage investments and we lead a seed round, then we also take a board seat. But that official board seat is like, I would say, the least of our engagement in a way compared to what we do with everyone anyway. But yes, so that's so yeah, we're pretty. I'd say most of our investors most of our startups would say that we're very active investors.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot. It's hard to completely break free from that previous role you had as running an accelerator, where you're used to like very intensely work with the startups in a different way than what investors usually do.
No, definitely. And I mean, we have both pre-seed and seed stage startups that we invest in. And of course, different people need different things and different founders need different things at different stages as well. I mean, we had one kind of pre-seed deal that we led in June last year, and we were pretty active with them, but now they've just raised a huge seed round from Andreessen Horowitz. And the likelihood that they'll need us as much is probably, not as high because now they have loads of other help as well. So I think there's also like, it's a specific stages that they might need us more. So we're not expecting to be super, super active with all of our portfolio forever. But I think especially now when we've just invested at that early stages is normally when they tend to need a little bit more help.
Great. And I saw Jennifer, she said, thanks for a good answer to the question as well. So I think we'll, Nino, do we have any questions from the chat specifically on Pale Blue Dot and Heidi?
Yes, I have a super good question. And that is from Alexei from launch.co. How do I approach you, Heidi, and Pale Blue Dot in the best way? Loom? Or how? Yeah.
So we're very easy to approach in the sense that we are, we all have our emails written out on our website and try to be kind of very public because we don't want there to be any barriers for people to be able to pitch us and get to us. So we're not the kind of fund where you have to have a warm intro and we only, listen if you do X, Y, Z. I think the best way to approach me specifically is to email me on heidi@paleblue.vc, and it's the same for my partners. You can definitely do a Loom video, and that is easier for us to get more context on what you do. And of course, we would normally, if you send us a message without, we will ask for a pitch deck or a Loom or something, so we have more context and we can kind of figure out whether there's enough interest for us to take it forward. But yes, that is the best way at the moment.
Okay, a follow-up question. To get a warm intro or cold outreach, how much does that matter for you as a VC?
It doesn't actually matter at all. For me personally, I think I really appreciate when people reach out directly without kind of an intermediary. But of course, sometimes it happens that there are like super hot deals that are closing very fast that comes from another VC who's maybe leading the round and saying, do you want to co-invest? And then we kind of say, okay, we know that this is very urgent and a lot of VCs are looking at it. So we might kind of priority wise, we might sometimes look at those first, but it really depends. I wouldn't say that the best deals, I mean, if I look at our portfolio, I would not say that the best deals have all come from warm intros or anything. It is very, very mixed. So I like cold emails. I like when people come to us straight and they actually know why they're approaching us and why they want us to invest.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, it's a real art, doing good like cold outreach emails to VCs.
It is, yeah, for sure.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the next section, and I would just talk like a little bit in general about impact investments and impact startups and the trends that you see there. A little bit pick your brain, and I think it could be a great advantage for the founders who are here listening as well. So from my point of view, I started in the VC world as an investor in early 2007. And then impact startups, this was hardly a category worth mentioning. It was not really something you talked about. And I never ever saw, like out of the 1,000 decks I saw as a VC during that time, had the SDG logos in their deck. But what has happened since then? Because that's not the situation as it is today.
No, exactly. And I mean, I think part of it is just the urgency in terms of what's happening in the world, right? Like people are thinking, can we really close our eyes to what's happening in the rest of the world and kind of be in this little bubble and build our nice little dating apps, etc.? Or do we actually kind of have to start thinking a bit wider than that? So I think a lot of things have happened. First of all, VC is still very none like as in VC funding specifically in the startup scene is not really diverse whatsoever. However, there have been movements and more people from different type of backgrounds have gotten into tech, which means that we are suddenly solving a lot wider range of solutions. There's been, of course, a lot more awareness, a lot more urgency on climate and on pandemics, etc. Like there's been a lot more awareness, which means a lot of bigger funds are also realizing that they need to shift the capital towards this. And suddenly these impact startups that before was almost a bit of a negative label at one point, where people were thinking, oh, you're an impact startup, that means that you are not working for profit. That means you just want to do something good, is kind of what people would say. And that has definitely shifted because now there's so much capital going into the sector and the capital access. So I think it's a combination of there's more awareness, there's more urgency. It's a little bit easier to get into tech, even if you are not specific type of founder that went to a specific type of school and have specific type of skills. Saying that, we're still far from perfect and far from solving the problems that we should be solving, but we're getting closer, maybe.
Yeah, the trend is definitely going in that direction, really.
Yeah.
So then next question that I'm thinking and that we are thinking about at Fast Track Malmö, because we also want to have as many as startups as possible in the batch who have some kind of positive impact. But what would you say is like the limit between like greenwashing or like really pushing it and actually being a real impact startup?
I think the main thing here is the impact actually core to the business model? And I think that is the real question that we ask all of the startups that we look at, because of course there's these models that, oh, when we do X, then we also do this. And then, okay, you buy this and you also do X. Like, is it actually part of how you're building the business from scratch? Because otherwise it easily becomes greenwashing. And it's just like, oh, but think about the potential of X, Y, Z. But you're not really building that. And if you're successful, that's just kind of maybe a byproduct if the founder is kind of inclined to do so and all of investors are okay. That's not really impact. For us, it has to be fundamental to what you do. If I solve this problem, this impact will come out of the problem. And the more profit, the bigger the company grows, the bigger the impact is. That's kind of how I look at it, a successful kind of impact company. And then everything else in between, you just have to like dismiss and try to remove and try to not get distracted by.
Yeah, cool. And what would you say, like looking forward, like what's the trend for impact investing and impact startups in 2021 and beyond?
I'm probably a little bit controversial on this, or I am a bit controversial on this.
Please, I love controversial opinions.
I have personally never been a huge fan of calling it impact investing, because I feel like it means that, we are counting on this specific sliver of startups to solve all the kind of problems that we have, and then in some way allowing the rest of the companies to, what perhaps makes society even worse, have a negative impact or not think about their impact whatsoever. So I think what we should do, and hopefully what we will do, is move towards removing the idea of impact and actually asking all startups and all investors to actually report on the impact that all of their startups are having. at the moment, this reporting only falls on ones who classify themselves as impact startups, which I think is crazy. Anytime a journalist tells me about, asks me who are the impact investors and what are the impact investments you've made, I always tell them that, why don't you talk to all the other funds who are not impact funds and ask them what are the impacts of their companies, positive or negative. Like, that's where we really should be focusing our time. So we should focus less on just kind of making it a specific thing and making it separate from startups and company building, and focus more on something that can be rolled out across the full startup industry. So my hope is that in the future, any company pitching anyone will need to tell the investors, and will need to say in their pitch what the impact is of their company, and they will need to justify that this company should exist and it should be funded. And we don't need to call them impact anymore, because that is kind of a given.
Excellent, I love it. And really saying that impact investing as a concept will disappear and will become like an obvious part of just normal investing.
Yeah, and I mean, one can dream at least, but
yeah.
that is my hope, and that is the future I'm preparing for. So
excellent, I love it. Nino, do we have any questions or comments from the chat on this subject?
We have so many questions. I don't know how we will not have time to answer all of them.
No.
Where to start? Okay, but any like, this is from Kalai Kovan from Hyper. So, suggestions for Indian startups focused on sustainable transportation like us. Do you know, like, who is more like investing in climate in the world that you know about? Like, do you have any great competitors out there?
So that is a very specific questions, and unfortunately, we pretty much just kind of keep track of the ones who are investing within Europe and the US, because that is the geographies that we can invest in. So I would not know who are the best kind of impact investors in India, for example. No. But yeah, that is unfortunately beyond my kind of level of expertise. But I can say that there's so many more people moving into climate. Like, it isn't just the specific funds like us who kind of are thesis driven, but the generalist funds are focusing so much more on climate. And I think the exciting thing about climate is that I think everyone is kind of realizing that this is not just like a trend and like a good thing to do, but it is actually where we're going to see most capital go into in the next few years. And we've already seen the climate tech investment space grow by more than 3,750% since 2013, and it's actually grown 3 times faster than AI did. So I don't know if anyone remembers how crazy it was, everyone wanted to invest in AI, and that's kind of what's happening in climate right now. So I don't think there's not a shortage of investors at the moment, and loads more are going to go into the space. So I think it's a really good time to start a company in climate as well.
Yeah, even in India, like the generalists, they will
I believe so. Yeah. Even in it, for sure, or not even in India, but also in India.
Yeah, even if they don't have a climate fund right now that's specific, money will be invested and is being invested in India as well in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I have a question from Renee. Like, how early in development phase do you invest in? I think you answered that, but you answered like, from 200,000 euros to optimal 1 million. So that is like basically pre-seed level, right?
Yes, exactly. So we do kind of pre-seed, and I mean, it of course depends a bit. Normally, even pre-seed, we do want to see a little bit traction, and we want to see something. We haven't. We have actually done a few investments that have been really purely on the founders and on the vision and seeing such a ready market, but that is a bit more rare for sure. Normally they have a little bit of traction and they can show that there is potential, and the other cases would be when we have looked into the space so much that we know the opportunity and we're almost just looking for a company that's kind of filling the gap that we're looking for, and then we'd be happy to do a bit earlier. But yes, a little bit traction pre-seed stage. Maybe they've gone through an accelerator, or maybe they've had some angel tickets before.
Excellent. That's also a question we had from Mats Hust from Footprint Level, who asked if you've invested in any great cases of pre-seed rounds, but that resulted in an MVP. So if I've understood him right, if you've invested in anything that was pre-revenue and pre-product, and that they used the investment to build the product.
Yeah, so we've done 8 investments so far, and 2 of them have actually been pre-MVP. But in one of those cases, we had known the founder for a very long time, and had seen previous versions of the product, and well, kind of previous iterations of the company, but really believed in the founder. And in the other case, it was just such a clear winner in that space, and we really believed that the approach was really good, and we knew that they had the skills to kind of build it, so it wasn't really necessary. But I think it is, even though it is 2 out of 8, it sounds like it's something that we do very regularly, but we are definitely, this was also very much at the beginning, and now that we get so much more deal flow, I think we're definitely more inclined to wait till there's a little bit more traction. But it's not impossible. Nothing is impossible.
Can I ask one? I have one question. Can I ask one? So when you say like it's a clear winner, so what are you looking for? So you're looking for a company with global ambitions that's going to win this. So how much space is there? Like how many winners are there in one space?
That's a great question, but I think we're really trying to figure out that is this a specific company where the team is strong enough, in the sense that we believe in this team's ability to recruit, we believe in their ability to grow into kind of our future leaders, we believe in their kind of willingness to kind of execute at specific speeds, and is the market big enough, and is it ripe, as in is it VC fundable market? We want to make sure that we can essentially, any of our investments should be able to return our full fund. Like we're looking at really huge returns here from each investment, and is there that potential? And then when you kind of say big enough, or how many others can there be, it depends on how big the market is. Sometimes there's going to be one of those winner takes it all markets that we believe that this is going to be the best one who's going to get this market, and sometimes it's just big enough that we'll think, okay, there'll be multiple unicorns within this space. So it really does depend on the market, on how we kind of view what is big enough. But yeah, a winner for us is generally super strong team, very clear vision, big markets, and just a good initial approach.
Excellent. So let's look at some of the questions from the founders that they asked in advance. So we have a question from Ida Manti here from Roy. I know she's based in Helsinki, and she wonders if you could elaborate. Oh wait, yeah. Now you talked about your investment decision making and how you choose to invest, but she also want to know, like, what is the most common reason why you pass an investment opportunity?
It's a great question, and it is one of those that is evolving a lot. We had our initial thoughts on how we would do decisions, and then we're constantly changing it because we're trying to get better at it, both at kind of recording it and at just doing an easier process. But in short, the decision is on majority. So there's 3 of us GPs and 3 of us in the IC, and we majority wants to be able to invest. But then we also say that one of us need to essentially say hell yes. We have hell yes, yes, no, and veto, our kind of decision barrier. So we want someone to say hell yes, like I really believe in this and I want to lead this deal. So there needs to be someone who has a lot of conviction, and then there needs to be at least other one who says yes, we should do it. And then there shouldn't be any vetoes, and vetoes are pretty extreme. We haven't used them yet, but it's like if we say, okay, well, this person, I don't know, might become the next Hitler, then someone might say, hey, I'm not okay with that chance. I don't know, that was a bit extreme, but the decision process in general, we have kind of multiple stages. We have a pre-decision meeting when first we kind of decide when we're going to engage as a fund, and then a second partner comes on, and we 2 partners kind of spend the next week or 2 on it. Then we have a pre-decision meeting where we kind of check a temperature, check where we have an idea of, is there enough positivity within the team that we should take it forward. Then we go into some kind of pre-due diligence and really trying to kind of build a page. We build like a Notion page about the company and try to gather all the information, try to figure out everyone's fears and uncertainties and doubts. And then we have this long list that we rate them on, and just to try to make sure that we thought about the team and the market and the potential of the approach, and et cetera, et cetera. So we rate them on multiple things just internally in order for us to come up to a good decision. And then we have like a final vote. So that's our current process. So it's pretty lengthy. Oh, and then in between that, we do the ESG scorecard as well. So we do the scorecard and we actually look at their impact, and we consider that. And that is, of course, part of the decision as well. So yeah, it's a pretty lengthy process, to be honest. But this is essentially the most important thing that we do as VCs are trying to find the best teams and are trying to get really good at figuring out if this is an investment we should be doing. So we spend a lot of time on improving it as well.
Yeah, that's a really rigorous process. But what would you say is like the most common reason? Like, why do you choose to pass an investment?
We've had very few companies that we have taken to investment decision and passed on. But I have to say the one that has come up a few times has been value alignment. We take it really seriously when we think about, is this a type of person that we want to build a company with hundreds or thousands of employees in the future? Our fund will grow very little. We'll be maybe 8 people max. There's very little we can do on that front, but the companies we fund will build really huge companies, and they will hopefully be like some, leaders in their fields. So it's really important to finding the right people. And if we feel like there's concerns on value alignment and the concerns on what kind of world they want to create or how they treat their employees or anything like that, then it's just too much of a risk for us to take. So that has actually come up more than once in these conversations.
All right, interesting.
So that is the people, like the team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is that is on the founder, value alignment on the founders.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is there. The market is big enough. They're solving an amazing thing. They can build tech. But then like maybe we don't want to hang out with these people for a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like, or we just feel like maybe they're not building the type of teams that we want to back.
Yeah.
Like, would we be like, we ask ourselves in our scorecard, would we be proud if these people were on stage talking to like thousands of people? Would we be proud of what they say and how they represent us? And if we can't say yes to that, then it's pretty telling. So I don't know how many other VC funds are going to put so much of value, but I mean, we are a climate fund. Like, it's pretty important to us that people are doing this for the right reasons. So yeah, we do look for that.
And you know what, we think the same here at Fast Track Malmö. So do you want them in our community? It's a big thing. I totally agree. I have a question. Can I jump in, Melinda? You haven't asked.
I have a really good question here that I would love to take from Shihari. Technically, who wonders, we have heard about investments which are 10x revenues. Is there a multiple when it comes to companies that show sustainability and climate as a driver? If not, should the industry set a multiple for others to benchmark it? Like, how is the process different for climate tech or those kinds of startups?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is no, the process is actually not different. So I think for the way we look at it is that, if you're a SaaS company working within climate and having a positive climate impact, you will still be kind of judged as any other SaaS company. So then you should look at, 0.9 SaaS Napkin, for example, and seeing in their research about what kind of multiples, what kind of valuations, what kind of traction you need for your next round. And the same goes for any other sector, really. So we, climate and impact startups aren't really judged differently. And this is the thing that is important, that we're not backing companies that are kind of sacrificing on the profit side. We're backing companies that, have great impact because they're in that kind of impact space where it's a core to your business model. And when a company has great profits and does really well, then the impact will be greater. So it isn't kind of a separate thing.
But I mean, we saw that during like the AI hype, and I think I see it now during like this climate impact hype as well, that it tends to be like competitive between investors, and that drives up valuations. Is that something you see, or?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It is it is starting to heat up already. You know, we actually had more climate funds in the US before, while more of the climate companies were in Europe. So we had kind of a slight advantage, but it feels like climate funds are popping up everywhere and right now. And I mean, loads of generalist funds are kind of setting up a climate arm or like a specific climate pocket. So it is definitely heating up and getting a lot more competitive. And that also means that, you know, we're talking to multiple companies that get multiple term sheets and they really, and we actually have to focus on not just seeing the deal, but winning the deal.
Excellent. We're going to have to go into the last like 2 questions or so. Nino, do you want to pick one from the chat?
I have a quick one that I really love, and that is from Emma and Kitchens. We have more questions. We will not have time, but we will have an event afterwards on Clubhouse. I will share the link here in the chat so you can join us and ask more questions. But we have one from Kitchen Swap and Emma. So it's regarding equity. They're thinking about a pre-seed round. How much equity can they give away to be in a good spot for a seed round? What's your opinion?
I would aim for 5 to 10% if you can. I would do 15% as a max. I would not give away more than 50% in a pre-seed. Like, I think 10% is reasonable. It depends, of course, on how much you raise. If you can do it for 5%, but like, don't go over 15, because we're currently trying to rearrange cap tables and we're trying to talk to founders and trying to educate them on this. So like, try not to go, because you're still going to give the same 20 to 25% in your next round, and the same for your Series A round. Like, VCs we can't really change our models now. So it is really important what you do before you kind of start taking in VC money.
So maximum 15%, Emma, remember that. And we wrote a blog post about this, and I will share the link. We asked 24 other VCs in Europe what they think. So please check it out in the chat. Yeah. Linda, last questions.
Okay, last question. Here we have, let me see. From Jacob Nielsen from Anatomic Studios, asking, what is the most significant change in investment activities in the last 12 months or so? Like, not only for you, but in general in the VC world.
I would actually say that it is this value alignment and this need of the VCs to actually talk about what their values are and how they measure impact and how they think about these things. And we have won multiple deals due to value alignment. And before, I think it used to be so much more about brand name and stuff. And I think founders are looking for more now, and they know that they have more power over the investors. So I think that's a really great change. But I mean, and we have this climate pledge, and we now get loads of founders to say, hey, we're going to make all of the rest of our VCs take it. And I'm like, great, go for it. Like, I think it's amazing that it works that way as well, that they're saying that we're only going to take you if you take a climate pledge. So it's really good to see.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you very much, Heidi. And we've gotten a lot of thanks as well from the audience. And you'll join us also in Clubhouse. Yes. We'll do a couple of more minutes and be able to answer a couple of more questions in there. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining today, and see you in a few seconds at Clubhouse, or see you around for our next event. It seems like it's going to be in the end of April.